Live from Landing Zone Studios, this is NOLA Famous. I'm your host, Tatum Gardner. And by now, everyone knows I like to mix up my co-host and connect people. So today, I am so excited, and I have the honor of co-hosting with chef and partner of Evangeline Restaurant, voted Best Chefs Louisiana 2019, Chef to Watch in 2018, none other than Sean Rivera, aka Foodie Patutie.
Hey, how are you?
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Nice to meet you.
It is an honor, and it's nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, and so now I look across the table. Can you believe it?
I cannot believe this. This is a gentleman that, before I do the formal introduction, this is a gentleman that I think that everybody admires. Everybody would love to know and loves to study. You know, at the end of the day, he's got a success story. He's living the dream, and he makes it look easy when it isn't. And
y'all making me blush. That's the podcast.
You do make it look easy, man. You really do make it look easy. But let me go ahead with the formal introduction. This is Executive Chef of Commander's Palace, James Beard Award winner for Best Chefs of the South. He's a restaurateur, author, entrepreneur, and sometimes a TV personality, the one and only Chef Tory McPhail. Man, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Sean.
It's an honor. Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And also a big shout out to Urban South Brewery for sponsoring our show today. So cheers. They sent us 5 beers to sip on while we talk to one of the greatest chefs in the world. All right.
Cheers.
Almost as good as a champagne bottle.
This is a really good beer. I was wondering about the cucumber because I'm not one for cucumber too much and stuff, but this is really good.
Light. So it's unfiltered wheat beer with kosher salt that is kettle soured, and it's made more refreshing with adding key lime and juice from fresh cucumbers. So it's kind of great to mix in cocktails too.
That's a nice spring beer.
Yeah, it is.
You know, with how many people these days add a little lime or lemon on top of a nice refreshing beer? I think it's great. Everything's all in one can.
Yeah, and you have all the other beers next to you. So
it sounds like we're drinking 5 beers this morning. Was that what's happening?
It is.
Yeah.
So it should be an interesting day at Evangeline and at Commander's.
Exactly.
I apologize in advance.
I'm blushing. Sometimes you need it, you know.
Yeah.
So you are a busy guy.
Busy guy.
I had reached out to you, I guess a couple of months ago, and I'm like, Tory, look, I'm doing this podcast. You have to come on. You're like, of course, I'm there.
Yeah.
And then I didn't hear from you, and so I turn on the TV, and there you are, cooking with Hoda and Harry Connick Jr. So I'm like, all right, I guess he's forgiven.
It's been a wild spring so far, but apparently that's how I like life, right? Just like busy all the time. No 2 days are ever the same, and it's great, man. You get to kind of the end of the week, and you say, man, look at how much cool stuff I've accomplished this week, which is a lot of fun,
Yeah,
Very
definitely.
Much so.
Tell us, how is that being on the Today Show?
Well, it's great. I think this is my 8th one.
Really?
Wow.
Everyone's just a little bit different, You just never know who you're going to meet. But those people are so sweet, so cool, so down to earth, and exactly the same when the cameras turn off. Like, Tory, how are you? Good morning. Hey, welcome back to the show. Hugs all around, kisses on cheeks. And we're talking earlier, but I was trying to bring up good New Orleans gifts. And so it happens to be like bottles of champagne or what have you. But this year, we brought a couple different things, and the ladies at the restaurant helped me pick out some New Orleans parasols, right? That has like a map of the city on top of it because Hoda spent so much time here at the beginning of her career.
Right.
And Jackie O'Lindsay is the producer. She's a sweetheart as well. Tulane graduate, so she's got a good tie to New Orleans. But even like little clutches that already have like a penny in there, right? Or Lucky Bean or what have you. Some cloth cocktail napkins and just some of the little knick-knacky stuff to make them think about New Orleans a little more often. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. Do they really drink all? Did they pop them open and drink?
Of course, right? Maybe I shouldn't be telling you guys that. So.
I know you should never drink in the morning before you do a show.
Never.
Absolutely not.
You need the nerves.
So, and you just got back. You just got off a plane last night, correct?
Yeah. Jumped on a plane early Sunday morning and went to San Antonio. Have y'all been there?
I have never been to San Antonio.
So it was my first time too. I always wanted to go, but never really had an excuse. But I went to check out the Culinary Institute of America. And they've got 3 campuses here in the United States. They've got one in Singapore. But the first one, as we know, Hyde Park, CIA. It's like the legendary best culinary school. One of them on the planet, but certainly in the United States. And they've got one in Napa Valley, Greystone, which is great. And then they have one in San Antonio. State-of-the-art school, beautiful. But went there to recruit kids I'm sure we're going to talk today about the climate of restaurants in New Orleans, how difficult it is to try to find cooks, great sous
Wow,
chefs.
that's one of the questions I would have had.
So, I think we have like double the amount of restaurants now just since Katrina. What's that, like 14 years ago?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
double. Like 1,500 privately owned, beautiful restaurants like yours.
And there's a shortage of sous chefs.
There's a shortage of
It's a shortage of everything, yeah. Even
gosh.
front of the house. Even front of the house. It's really hard to find good front of the house people that really care. I find, not to take over the conversation, but I find that since the movie industry, the tax breaks have left, the really good people who can put on a show and put on an act for that table and sell have left. And it's hard. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So you started in Commanders, what, in 93?
Yeah, spring of 93, I was 19.
Okay, but you took over being executive chef in 2002.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what, 17 years?
Crazy, huh?
That is insane.
It's wacky.
I know, and you talked about doing the 12 stations. So if you go to recruit somebody from San Antonio, will they come in? What is their interview process like? Will they have to go through the 12 stations? Yeah. What are the 12 stations?
It's interesting how times have changed. But when I graduated culinary school, like 27 years ago, right? Spring of '93, I felt like the Food Network had not popped yet, right? We certainly have Food Wine magazine and Subver and all those like beautiful Bon Appetit magazines, but now there's like 30 magazines, right? And then there's Bravo, there's the Cooking Channel, there's the Food Network.
The celebrity chef had not been invented yet.
Not at all.
Right.
Emeril was just starting to pop, but he didn't have that, coast to coast celebrity that, he did starting back in like 94, 95 when the Food Network was just starting to pop. And so I felt like culinary school for me was, everybody was just out of high school, with the exception of maybe like one dude. It was like a career changer. But yesterday going through this career fair, it's not like everybody starts in the same space. I probably saw 800 students yesterday, right? Everybody's like battling. There was probably, 50 or 60 employers there from all across the United States.
Trying to recruit.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But there's kids that are literally like 17 years old, and then there's some that are like 55 years old, and like a solid mix all the way through. It's not just saying, man, everybody's like 18 these days. So it's interesting where one of those people will land in a kitchen like Commanders. It's very, very specific. Everybody has their own plan with how they grow inside of a kitchen. How does it go with you when you get somebody else new in?
As of late, to be honest with you, it's I prefer somebody green. And I was going to ask you as well, what, I know that you came from Washington and you did basically an apprenticeship, and I did a CFC apprenticeship in Minneapolis under Chef Eric Baker at the time, at 17. And how do you feel about, and maybe we might even have to edit this, but how do you honestly feel about culinary school right now? How do you feel about, the loans, the debt that people go into to really become a certified cook? At the end of the day, and to be honest with you, a lot of it, and I know that Commanders is funding a culinary school here, right? But within that, at the same time, you're having to go recruit, so that says a lot about the state of New Orleans. But at the end of the day, I almost tell people it's not worth it, and only because I never went to culinary school. I did a 1-year apprenticeship, so I went in green. Well, not really green. I started at 14, but 3 years experience in a kitchen, but at the same time winning green to basically say, it doesn't matter what this is what you're going to do for the next year. Sure. And I needed that. And it's pushed me to today, but at the same time, I'll see these kids get out 40, 50 grand in debt, and they're making $8 to $10 an hour,
right? And
they can barely pay for the parking just to get to work.
Yeah.
And it's a tough state. I don't know. Who knows? If all I can do is just keep your head down and keep working. But we're the lucky ones. At the end of the day.
Yeah, I think so. I think it kind of depends on the student. So just as an example, obviously I was in San Antonio yesterday, and I saw a very good young professional. She was maybe 19, maybe 20, brilliant, right? Motivated, driven. She was exactly the type of person that we were going to go all the way to Texas to try to recruit back to New Orleans. And I see some kids that are kind of walking up. I'm just like, man, even before the person spoke, I'm like, man, this person has no business being here, So I guess from a financial aspect, every culinary school is going to say, yeah, come on in, door's wide open, right? But there's got to be some kind of, better conversations maybe between the family before you say, hey man, I'm going to invest $50,000, $80,000 in culinary school. I really gonna need it, should maybe you kind of test the waters a little bit sooner on like a community college and find out if the kid's gonna, gravitate towards the hard work and our ridiculous, crazy lives. So I guess it's kind of a teeter-totter.
Are there any success stories lately of that though? Because we interviewed Frank Bryston, and I know basically he answered an ad all those years ago and started in the commander's kitchen and worked his way up. Is that still possible today? Like, yeah. So you can start and work your way through the 12 stations and end up being successful as a chef.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes down to, I guess, personal motivation, whether you go to culinary school, if you're just a naturally driven person, there's people that can jump in at an early age, whether it's 14 or 15, 16, whatever it is. Some people just jump in, they bust their ass every single day, they study hard, they've got tremendous work ethic, they never say when, right? They just go and go and go, and those people are successful.
Well, that's what you need. You have to have a certain personality, right?
Yeah. And you don't need culinary school to be able to do that. I'm always a bigger fan of any type of education. I say jump up and take it as much as you can. Couple that with hard work and somebody mentoring you, so you don't have to make all the mistakes that are out there. Because shoot, how many opportunities do people have to fail in our business?
Not many.
Unless you really get behind somebody and say, "Come on, kid, let's go."
Yeah. And I know Ella was a big proponent of that. I watched the Commanding the Table the other night.
My goodness, man!
Did that win an award? If it didn't, it should have.
I don't know exactly how many awards it's won, but talk about, I've never seen such an emotional food documentary, and obviously I'm very close and very tied to it, but I've never seen one that I wanted to stand up and cheer.
Me too.
Ball crying, talking about our buddy Jamie, and then kind of, stand up and cheer again. It's such a success story, especially for a woman way back when, doing what she did in that time, and very much a male-dominated environment. I mean, it's just an amazing, inspirational success story. So for the folks at home that haven't seen it yet, Ella Brennan, Commanding the Table. It's on Netflix.
Excellent documentary.
You can click over to the documentary section and check out all the sections. But check that out. It's a great success story. It's a great story about New Orleans, and it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I watched it twice. I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. I love the part where they said that she was one of the most influential people in the culinary world, and I don't even know if she owned a pan. Like, she just had the most exceptional
She invented
talent.
brunch. And then now that's an international.
Yeah.
Every Saturday and Sunday, internationally, at any hotel, any restaurant, you're going to have brunch, and she invented
exactly.
that. And that's
Bananas Foster.
And to make it fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, man, we're getting done from church, man, the family's got to eat somewhere. You know what? Let's break out the booze. Okay.
Always.
Let's pop some champagne. Let's have unbelievable eggs. Let's invite a jazz band in, cruise around, and let's rip. Let's go for it. But at that point, Saturdays and Sundays, they were dead. They were dead slow. Nobody went to brunch. What was that?
Everyone was hungover, but now you have a reason just to stay drunk.
That's it. You got to get that early morning eye opener.
Exactly.
You got to have a little Bloody
I
Mary.
think brunch is my favorite meal.
Shout out to Urban South.
Of the day, for sure. Should we pop another one? Like, are we almost finished this one?
We may as well.
What's the next? What's next
I'm intrigued by that snowball one.
All right, let's dig in and get a snowball.
Snowball juice.
And I love, honestly, this the Goss tastes almost similar to a cocktail that you would have at Sobu, to be honest with you.
Absolutely.
Which I'm so impressed with y'all's cocktail program, man. Even the food, honestly, I'm impressed. Like, y'all blow me away over there.
Wait, well, let's talk about it. At Sobu?
Yeah.
The cocktail program is just, the food is, as a chef, I don't want to knock the food, by no means. But it's really hard to find in this town. There's some really good ones, Sylvain, and there's a list can go on but within the 1,500 restaurants that you say, there's a lot of posers, a lot of people who want to put on a cocktail program and say that and do all the flair and all this other stuff. But when you go to Sobu, it's like you have to have another one. You have to try the gambit of cocktails. You really, really, really have done a really good job with it.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
What is your favorite? So what I mean, obviously you do everything fresh, so you just squeeze all your own juices, and it's more of a mixologist as opposed to like a bartender.
So, that restaurant it's been fun. It's, I guess this summer will come up on 6 years since it's been rolling. But Abigail Gulo, she was our first bar chef. She was great. Big presence, big personality, fantastic lady, but she was just a rock star behind the bar.
She was on Munchies with you.
That was a great. Which was an excuse just to go out and just get housed and cruise around, man, and eat couche tondele and do. I love tequila, right? But it's a rip around the corner, the French Quarter after dark, and drink tequila and whiskey and amazing cocktails and beer backs and all that. That's a lot of fun, just because it happens to be Tuesday in New Orleans.
Well, and also brunch. Let's mention again at Sobu, legs and eggs. They have an amazing brunch there.
Man, who would have thought? You know, and Ella, when we first kind of pitched it to her, and Dottie hanging out in the kitchen, you know, they kind of raised an eyeball. Really? Burlesque brunch? And T was all about it, and all of us too. And we're like, let's go for it. You know, we can always stop if we don't want, if we don't want to. But yeah, it's been a huge success. Bella Blue is just an amazing friend,
love it, yeah.
Amazing person, and kick in the pants, man. Burlesque brunch.
It is. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Have you been to the Burlesque brunch?
Yeah,
you need to check it out.
When that's going on, to be honest with you. But yeah, I will go now. We'll definitely go.
So when you talk about T and Ella, and you can tell it's like family to you. I mean, these people,
very much.
You almost grew up with them in the kitchen.
Yeah, for sure. When I first got down there, I was just 19, a very impressionable, scared kid from Washington State in a big city for the very first time, and moved down here with a buddy of mine, Matty Wolf, who ended up on the cover of Food Wine magazine. It's like top 10 best new chefs from all of his work at Gautro's way back when in the 90s. But yeah, the family definitely took me under their wings, and Ella kind of became like a grandmother figure in my life. Dottie as well, and even to today, I see Dottie all the time, and T and Lally, it's all hugs and high fives around, and just there's like my big sisters really are. But it's an amazing family. I'm honored to have the opportunity to hang out with them as much as I have this last almost 30 years.
Yeah. And you just opened a restaurant with T not too long ago.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Picnic.
Yeah, it's a kick in the pants too. Spicy crawfish bowl fried chicken.
Delicious.
Champagne and whiskey. We call it Picnic Provisions and Whiskey.
And you traveled all over the United States looking for recipes for or tasting chicken.
Yeah.
What a rough job, right?
Yeah, what a
So I've been up to 109 fried chicken joints so far.
Wow.
109 to try to jump in and get our seasoning exactly right.
What's the what city did you go to that you didn't expect to have the best fried chicken and end up saying like, wow, like Spokane, Washington, or someplace where you would never expect. You would expect good fried chicken in the South, but what was the city that you went to that?
It's amazing how many great fried chicken restaurants I went to, right? And some of them were just like flat out bad. And I was
really?
like, God, how do you?
Some of them were just what?
Just like,
flat out bad is what you said.
Just,
okay.
just not great in a lot of different contexts. But,
okay.
For me to put my finger on and say, man, which one surprised me the most? That's a really good question. I'll need to think about that one for a second.
All right, we'll come back to that one.
Beer.
I'll tell a story while you think about that. So my husband Donnie and I, we went to Picnic right when it opened. I want to say it was maybe like the second or third week. We were lucky to get in. We sat at the bar, and we ordered, of course, probably everything on the menu. Those margaritas with that spicy. They were delicious. So by this time we're 3 margaritas in, and we see smoke coming from behind the bar, and Donnie's like, I think something might be on fire. Just then, Tory appeared. Do you remember this?
I do remember that.
So he's like, you grab the margaritas, I grab the chicken. Like, we're not leaving this, okay? We were so impressed with you, though, because you walked up and you're like, normally people are like, holy shit, something's on fire. You're like, unplug it. You're kind of fanning it with your towel. You're like, how y'all doing? Thanks for coming in. And I'm like,
what else are you going to do?
Showmanship.
You got a restaurant full of people.
Right, and you handled it. You didn't break a sweat. You even came over afterwards and you were like kissing us. Thanks for coming.
You guys okay? You guys cool?
Yeah.
The whole restaurant.
We were good. I mean,
electrical fire with the plug on the back of that.
But do you think all those years of Commanders and being so crazy and has taught you now how to deal with stuff like that without getting stressed out?
Yeah, man. You just got to be cool and calm under pressure. You got to be a good leader. You got to be unflappable, as they say, right? Like even this past week, man, we had somebody mistakenly drop a can of ham spray in a fryer.
Oh.
Right. Did it explode?
And it ended up exploding.
Wow.
So it was a good learning lesson for everybody in the kitchen that night. I'm like, guys, what the heck are we doing? What are we doing? You don't see that thing bobbing around in there?
There's a video about 10 years ago of me doing the same thing, but it was outside on a char grill at Baton Rouge Country Club.
Yep.
And I left the can spray just too close to it.
Yeah.
And it looks way more graphic than it really is on video, because when you're in it, I guess it's just the adrenaline, because you're just in this big ball of fire, but then the ball of fire goes away. But it's an embarrassing moment. I've never told that story, but I'm going to tell it now to the public. But yes, I left it too close to the charred grill and it blew up.
What did you have somebody at the chef's table when that happened?
No, thankfully it was like late night. But they grabbed a sheet pan and put it over it just at the point where it exploded. And when that happens, stuff goes everywhere. I mean, there was grease like whoosh,
Oh.
And the guys were like just done cleaning the pass.
Oof.
Let's break out the hot soapy water and let's get after it. Let's go for it again.
And everybody cleans.
I mean, everybody cleans our kitchen at the end of the night anyway, but it's kind of one of those, you're like grabbing all the pastry people, grabbing all the production cooks, the garbages, saying, you know what, let's collapse onto the hotline and let's knock it out, friends.
Sooner we clean, sooner we all get out of here.
Yeah, exactly right. And
Teamwork makes the dream work.
It's beer 30 at the Rendezvous on the magazine.
Amen.
So you see in a lot of restaurants, it's got like this Hell's Kitchen type atmosphere, or it's rumored to have that. You don't have that in Commander's. I mean, does the chef's table keep you honest, or like when people are there? I mean, you have to be on your best behavior, or no?
I don't know. I think all the shenanigans should happen out of their kitchen and away from, you know, whoever cuts up at the bar, you know, that's their own business. But, you know, that's my life. That's like the kitchen I've grew up in. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, we operate that kitchen just like we would our home life. You know what I mean? We're honest, trustworthy, respectful, just good people. And so there's no yelling and screaming and crazy stuff that goes on behind the scenes. That's just not how that works.
Right.
You know? And, you know, I remember the Anthony Bourdain books, Kitchen Confidential, and all the wacky stuff that really put him on the map. None of that stuff happens with us. And I think part of it is it's just not the way I was brought up. Jamie was always a very amazing mentor, very respectable guy. But our ladies are all owners of the restaurant. You know what I mean? So how I act in Ella's kitchen when it's her and I drinking, you know, beautiful white bottle of white Burgundy, I'm exactly the same way at 7:00 on a Saturday night. You just got to be professional.
Yeah.
How does it work in some of the kitchens that you grew up in?
There was a lot of yelling, to be honest with you, but I think it's a different day and age. And I feel as though it is a women-driven business now, and especially, you know, with Ella and T and even in the kitchen, you're finding more of the competent cooks, chefs, sous being females, and they have a lot to prove, and rightfully so, you know, and I embraced it. I embrace it a lot, I enjoy having female sous and female chefs and cuisines, just to give them power, and it kind of breaks down the male psyche in there to where they have to prove themselves, and if you can't, then you can walk. But growing up in kitchens, I started at Barreca's at the age of 14 on Metairie Road, and there was a lot of yelling. There was a lot of, but at the same time, back then it was like you were saying before, there was no Food Network. There was no food, this, that, the other. All there was great chefs on PBS and Jan Can Cook. Maybe and those are the things that I watched as a kid. But it was just a lot of shenanigans. It was a boys' club. It was a lot of going out drinking all night and come back the next day, and you know, and that's one of the reasons why I love being there. I was honored to be a part of the, you know, one of 10 people accepted for the CFC apprenticeship, but I needed that apprenticeship. I needed to know what a real kitchen was like. I needed to know, you know, different types of knives and different types of styles of cooking and cuts and what have you, not just to be like, this is what we do and who cares, make it happen, you know, kind of thing. And which that plays into now when there's certain things that happen. It's like, okay, well, we're gonna have to just make it happen. But it's a different world now, and I don't think that I have a lot of good friends that work for Gordon Ramsay, and the first thing they say is like, never walks in the kitchen and yells at us, never does any of that stuff that you see on TV, never does any of those things. And it's just, that's all production, that's all, you know, sensationalism, that's all like, well, if this show's got this ratings, well, we need to get these ratings, you know, and so there's all this drama and all this stuff that goes on and to promote that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's hard to find people nowadays. So if you yell at them, they're probably not going to come back unless they really want to be yelled at. You know, there's and I will say his name. One of the best sous chefs I've ever had, Ross Lanson. He's at Calvin now. He's a sous chef at Calvin. Every day he told me, "Yell at me, chef. Yell at me, chef." And I couldn't. Even his father said, "You have the right to beat his ass." But. And I love this kid so much because like he reminds me of me when I was young, where it was like, you know, brutalize me. I want to scrub the cooler. I want to do this, and I know one day he's going to be a chef to watch. He's going to be a best chef, and he has it in his heart. And those are the people that I probably wouldn't yell at because they want me to. But
too much heart.
Yeah, it takes a lot of heart in this business. It takes a lot of heart.
That's absolutely right.
And one of the questions I have, and I'm not even going to refer to the notes with it, it's, you know, I woke up this morning and being honored to be in the show this morning. I got to, this whole week has been crazy. Just taking over Evangeline. I've only been there 3 weeks with the partnership. And so it's been a crazy 3 weeks of just trying to reorganize and get things together. But it really hit me hard. And I'll be honest, it hit me hard emotionally that I was blessed with this opportunity, blessed with the opportunity to be best chef, Louisiana Cooking Chefs to Watch last year, this year, Louisiana Best Chefs. And you think about everything that you've done, and you think about everything that you sacrificed, and so it's, how do you defrag? How do you, especially with, you probably have the busiest schedule out of anybody in this town, to be honest with you. And even the celebrity chefs that are out there, that the big names, they have an infrastructure to hold them down, but like, you actually work, you're a restaurateur, you're a partner, you're all of the above, you're a celebrity chef, but then again, you actually go and work. And not to knock any of those other people, because you know what, I hope one day I don't have to work either. But so that's great. But how do you balance all that? Because it's a tough thing.
And stay so humble. You really are super humble.
Regular dude with a cool job is what I always say.
Yeah.
But the cooking is the easy part. It's the fun part. But that's what actually keeps me sane.
It is therapeutic.
We can do, the Today Show. We can do Food Network stuff. We can do whatever the scoop is. But my happiest moments are when I don't have my phone on me. I'm not checking emails. I'm not on the telephone doing my deal. When I am, poaching 1,000 eggs, right? Or making a 5-gallon bucket of hollandaise to get through a busy Sunday brunch. And it's like white noise for me. You know what I mean? You look
the hum of that hood is just so soothing. And
everything else goes away. You finally get back to doing what you're very, very passionate about, and the things that I fell in love with as a kid. Just when we make hollandaise for the very first time, like Thomas Keller would say, it's such an amazing thing. It's just like hand craftsmanship, but like lemon juice, eggs, cayenne pepper, sea salt, and you add in some butter, and all of a sudden it's another thing. It's an amazing situation. So that's how I stay sane, right? I just cook. So these days we kind of take the typical model, we turn it upside down. So I have another sous chef that's in charge of purchasing. I have another sous chef that makes our chef's schedule. Chris Lynch is an amazing chef de cuisine and a very dear friend of mine. But he does all that. Another sous chef schedules all the cooks. Somebody else orders the chemicals. Somebody else makes the warewasher schedule. And it frees me up to spend time side by side with all the cooks. That's why they're there, right? They're not there to necessarily work for 1403 Washington Avenue. They're there to work for the chef, to learn and to be educated and to be mentored. So that's the fun part for me. All the rest of the stuff can kind of come and go.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's we were going to say, what is your reset button? But cooking. That's what you enjoy. When you're not cooking, what do you like to do? What's your home?
My wife and I
tequila.
I do love tequila. That makes it all fun. But my wife and I just built a house this last year and a half, and we just moved in about 6 months ago. And so I still have yet to be able to sit by this tiny little pool we have in the backyard, but I still have yet to be able to break out the margarita machine and to sit back and put on reggae music on a Sunday afternoon. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm hoping like one of these weeks we're actually going to sit still long enough to do it. But,
so if you fire up the grill at home, what are you cooking? Like, how do you like your steaks at home?
I like peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
Are you kidding me?
I love Taco Bell.
And I was going to say, I heard from, shout out to Ryan Andre, my brother, I love you so much, and who studied under Tory, and there's all these war stories that you hear about commanders, and it's unfortunate I wasn't blessed to be able to work there, but I'm kind of happy I wasn't brutalized like he was, but it's made him the man he is today, owner of Sobu and whatnot. But I've heard the story that, for the last 14 years of knowing Ryan, of, just that literally, like, Tory, Taco Bell.
Love it,
Taco
man.
Bell. And I love it too. It's just, you need, shout out to Taco Bell, but sometimes you just need some garbage. Especially when everything is just so precise, you know exactly, demi-glace, you're deglazing, you're doing all these different things, you're mounting with butter, all this just stuff you smell, you touch, you see, and then sometimes you just want
something is not
something
fresh.
That's just nostalgic, a crunch of a taco, cheap cheese and lettuce. And please just give me that. I can go
delicious.
To bed.
I think for the folks that know me pretty well, I'm a bit like Jekyll and Hyde. One way inside the commander's kitchen and very meticulous and very exacting, and things got to be exactly right, or else I freak out, get very obsessive compulsive about every single detail that we have, and that's good for a chef to kind of do that. But in my own personal life, I just like it to be simple. I think it's one of the reasons I like Mexican food. It's rice, it's beans, whatever kind of protein you have, whether it's steak or chicken. I just want it cooked right, and it can have salt and pepper on it. Fine, just cook it right. Make sure there's enough hot sauce in the beans.
A little cumin.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Just simple stuff, but slam that into a grilled flour tortilla with a little bit of pico de gallo on top. I'm just like the happiest guy ever.
So what about Britt? Is she a foodie? I mean, is she?
She is. Yeah. So I do what I do for a living. My wife sells wine for Wines Unlimited. But she's actually the chef in the family. And
okay.
She cooks really, really good stuff.
That's what I was going to ask. Who's cooking at night?
She is, man. So she has an opportunity to kind of finish her day. Orders are in by 4:30 for Wines Unlimited, so you can get our next orders the following day. But after that, she's kind of freed up to do what she wants to do. So she'll literally write a menu for the week, because she's a healthy girl. She works out all the time, and she's like, look, man, we're gonna have healthy turkey burgers, but we're gonna put some grilled portobello mushrooms on top of it, some melted raclette cheese, right, and a little bit of fresh thyme and a little parsley and tarragon salad, and we're gonna do that in a little bit of a bun. It's like, go ahead, girl. Great.
You got it.
It's a bit of a role reversal, because she'll cook and I'll pull corks. And that's fine. That's great. I'll set the table, do the deal. She's in the kitchen. I'm hanging out with a little puppy Sherlock Bones, and that's it. Relaxing.
How long have you guys been married?
Coming up on 4 years.
Okay, and where did you guys meet?
We actually met in the commander's kitchen right before Katrina.
Okay.
Yeah, and she was working in the front of the house as a front waiter. I was in the back, obviously, and we have a mutual friend, Joy Bruce. She was a captain of commanders, and those guys were good buddies. They're from just outside of Richmond, Virginia, a little town called Midlothian. And those were fast friends, and we all kind of were hanging out, enjoying ourselves and all. And then that big wind and rainstorm came 14 years ago.
Yeah.
All of us kind of went our separate ways. And then when everybody kind of eventually got back to New Orleans, she started to jump into the wine business. And all of a sudden, friendship got a little more serious than that.
Mm-hmm. And Friends first. That's how it starts. I do want to touch on Katrina, but maybe before we do that, we should get another beer.
Sure,
so the Snowball juice. How did you
enjoy the Snowball.
That one was good. Let me see if I have a card on that. Yeah. That is hopped up IPA with nearly 5 pounds per barrel of Idaho 7, Vic Secret, El Dorado, and Citra. I don't know what any of that is. Do y'all? That one was good though. Okay, I want to try. Let's try the spicy one next. Let's try the orange can next. I'm dying to try this one.
This is the Sweet Heat.
Yeah. And how do you say that? We don't know. Goss?
Goss. So Goss is a German style of beer.
Okay.
That's what Google said. I'm not acting like I know a lot.
You didn't even have to add that in. Well, nobody would have ever known,
smooth,
right?
Huh? Seamless.
Well, I had nothing else to say. So. It's German, which most beers are, in derivatives.
All right, so this is, it brings the heat and the sweet. Cheers.
Cheers, gang.
It's aged on sweet mango puree and finished with habanero to add spicy depth and fruitness.
I think every one of these could make a good mixed drink.
Absolutely.
I
think so too.
And you love that Caribbean flavor,
I'm all about that.
I know, we'll get to that too.
Whatever they call them, man-mosas nowadays. Any of these could make a man-mosa or a mimosa. But
what's the deal with that?
Like
Man-mosas, manscaping, Brotox. When I went to the dermatologist the other day, they're like, does your husband want any Brotox? I'm like, no, I think he's...
my Lord. The vanity.
Yeah. He's good.
I don't think we really
New Orleans house husbands. We should do a show. New Orleans house husbands.
New Orleans chefs, right? That would be a good reality TV show. The chefs of New Orleans. I think just Commanders would be a good.
It would have to be HBO.
Okay,
I'm serious.
No.
It would have to be.
I have to ask you, okay, because in doing research, you were a host of a TV show, but I can't find it off the menu.
Off the menu. Yeah.
Okay, tell us about that.
So somehow we got paid to go hunting and fishing.
Why can't I find it anywhere?
The Turner South Network was, I guess, a subsidiary of the Ted Turner Broadcasting Company out of Atlanta. Right? They had all these different, shows and all that stuff. But Turner South was one of them. It kind of focused on local Southern way of life. And so those guys were out of Atlanta, but a good friend of mine, she and I actually were back and forth on the telephone yesterday. Jennifer Wysocki, her and her husband now live in Baton Rouge, and they work for the Louisiana Farm Bureau. And the new evolution of this show is called This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Oh, I've been on that show a couple of times.
Yeah, right?
AJ Sabine.
I don't know if I know AJ.
Well, he does the restaurant part of it, where he goes to a restaurant and eats and promotes Louisiana.
So it's a cool show.
It's a very cool show, actually.
Yeah, but the original show was all about hunting and fishing. It was called Off the Menu. So
where can we find it?
I mean, these days you can probably find it on like YouTube or Vimeo or any of those.
I looked. I tried. I couldn't find it.
I'm just going to give you a bunch of.
You should have a link on your website.
I need to. That's a good
Why
idea.
not? People would love to watch that. You know?
He's too busy drinking tequila.
and some really good beers. Really Thank you, Urban South.
Urban South, this is a really, really good beer.
Yeah.
One thing I would say that the public needs to go watch, and it's one thing that I do watch for inspiration, and I don't know if I said it on air earlier or not, but it's After Hours with Daniel Ballou on Hulu. You can still watch it. And the New Orleans season is so inspirational for me. It's what I go to when I don't feel like doing this anymore, to be honest with you. And it's just so inspirational, and just the way that it's shot, it's time lapse, and it goes back and forth, and he invites local celebrities and local foodies to come in and eat. And the Commanders episode is really amazing, and it talks about, I remember and I've watched it so many times I almost know it word for word, to be honest with you. But it you talk about corkage fees, you talk about this, that, the other. It was just, it's a great, every city that he goes to is great season, but the New Orleans season is really inspirational, and I would encourage everybody to watch it, because it was to me when New Orleans was in it's still in its heyday, and we're still the culinary mecca, but at the same time there's a lot of cities right now that are trying to trump New Orleans, and rightfully so. Please do, keep us honest and keep us on our toes, but it's a great thing, and Tory's episode is amazing, really, really amazing.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. It really was to have that selection of people that I've always kind of looked up to, like Iman Lubier was a big mentor of mine, along with Jamie Shannon, and just that whole cast of characters that day. And really the premise is to get all these local celebrities and these, I guess, local personalities together and just have an honest conversation about behind the scenes in a restaurant that maybe the average consumer or the average guest, they probably hadn't thought about. So part of the conversation was all about corkage fee. What is it? Is it a good idea to have somebody else walk in the door? They say, hey man, I'm going to bring my own bottle of, DRC in or some whatever. And that's a substantial part of the check. So corkage fees have got to be there. But it was a fun episode, and certainly Danielle Ballou is just like,
oh my God! I mean, just to be able to be in the kitchen next to him, and especially a kitchen like Commander's kitchen, just to be in the kitchen next to him, and he did the Cote d'Ivoire, and then he's
calves brains.
Yeah,
who would have thought calves brains?
That was
interesting.
And the cast of people at the table were just amazing.
Yeah, who else was there? Urban Mayfield.
Urban Mayfield was there. The gentleman from Mad Men, I can't remember his name.
Brian Bapp, right?
Brian Bapp.
T. Lally.
T was there. I don't know if Lally sat at the table, but she had cocktails. Ella had cocktail. I had a cocktail. That was just one of the things I'll reflect on. Again, I won't keep talking about that. People who know your interview. But it was funny how, Ella is one of the things that when I watch it with a group of my peers and we watch it together, it's funny how she says, they're both having a Sazerac, and just that New Orleans wit and that New Orleans. She reminds me of Mama, to be honest with you. Like, it's just sass, and
That's right.
And here's probably the greatest, most well-known chef and admired by every chef in the world, Daniel Ballou, and she's sitting here and she just has a cocktail, and she says, we're just sitting here throwing compliments at each other. Basically, let's just go eat. Like let's cut the bull crap. It's just and it's just this. Here's this lady who has the right to tell Daniel Ballou, let's cut the bull crap.
That's right. Let's sit down and have a good conversation.
Yeah, exactly. This is all fluff, and it was just really cool, and it was just it's sequential. It's just New Orleans, it was just so New Orleans, and that's why I look at it for inspiration, to be honest with you. But more about Tory.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's why I like to have whoever co-hosts with me be in the same genre or, profession, because you bring something to the table that, I'm sitting here, so I don't know what it takes to get from farm to table. I don't know what purveyors you guys go to. I don't know. I just see the beautiful dish, unless I'm lucky enough to sit in the kitchen once a year, which I make sure that I do.
When are you coming back?
I know. We usually come in November for our anniversary, and I will tell you, if you haven't been, it needs to be on your bucket list. Mm-hmm. It is an experience that you have never had before, and an experience that you will never have again, unless you sit at the chef's table.
It's fun.
It is
Yeah.
amazing.
You guys have anything like that in your kitchen?
We don't.
Yeah.
We have such a small kitchen, and we're blessed to be on Decatur Street. We're blessed to be a block away from House of Blues and kind of like where everything is. We are the owners are from Brobridge, Louisiana, and they want to keep it strict Cajun to the T. So me coming in and learning Cajun food as at a young age and it's a challenge for me, and that's why I accepted it, because at the same time, there's things that I want to do, like maybe we should mount this with butter. Well, we don't mount it with butter.
Yeah.
Well, okay, obviously you're my partner, but at the end of the day, this is your restaurant. It's been here 5 years. Yeah. If that's not what you want for this, obviously they let me be creative on a lot of different things, but it's a hard cookie to crack when modern techniques and certain things, but they want it to be one pot cooking, and like I'd rather sweat this over here and then I'm gonna add it over here and do that, but no, it's one pot cooking, which I totally understand, and that's where everything derives from. But it's we don't have a big kitchen. We wouldn't be able to do. We have a great courtyard, and that's one of the most promising things. But it's a good challenge in that I was telling her earlier that I always strayed away from the restaurants that I've owned, the restaurants that I've had, or been a chef at, or had the opportunity to create something where it would never be a crawfish etouffee, it would never be a gumbo, Creole, anything like that, because you always compete with somebody's grandmother. You always compete with somebody's mother. There's always a nostalgia connected to that dish. So even if I know that it's good, even if I handpicked every piece of garlic, onion, bell pepper, made sure, sweated it down, did all these different things to make sure that you have the best bowl of gumbo that I can provide for you, it's never going to be good as Thanksgiving morning 1989 or whatever, So I never wanted to compete with that, I never wanted to be the chef that was like trying to reinvent the wheel in a way. And now I have to, and so at 42 years old and with the accomplishments that I've been blessed to obtain, it's like I feel as though this is what I need. I need to get back to my roots and to be in the French Quarter. I mean, it's
that's pretty cool.
And to be able to compete with the new Irene's around the corner and Justine and all these things like that I want to be with the big boys, and obviously I'm not anywhere near those big boys, but I'm on the same 4 square block as them, and I'm happy to be there, and this is a challenge I'm willing to accept. Back to you, sir. Go ahead.
Well, so you say challenge, and that's one of the things to me about Commander's Palace is that you're able to stay traditional, okay, and you're able to please the people who've been there 55 plus years, been coming, but you're also innovative in a way that you are traditional, but you keep the new ones coming back too. So how do you do that?
That's the trick right there.
Right.
That's like the teeter-totter of 1 foot in the old and traditional, and every dish needs to tell a story, and it's got to be smart, and you got to have some kind of a touch point to old Louisiana dating back 300 years ago. You got to be able to stay true to that. A dish should not just be a collection of ingredients. Like the whole thing really needs to tell a story, so as you go to eat the whole thing together, it becomes bigger than the sum of its parts. And I think that's extremely important. I feel like nobody should be inventive and really being, avant-garde or pushing the envelope unless you've got a very keen understanding of what it's taken to get us to where we're at today. And if you study and you're a freak and you try to go for it like I do, then you can play and kind of have some fluffy stuff and do all that stuff. But it's got to be New Orleans food. It's got to be good Louisiana food. It's not just, hey man, we're gonna pour truffle oil over everything.
Yeah.
No, man. No, please not do that.
New Orleanians do not want gumbo with truffle oil.
No, absolutely not.
I don't know. Anybody really wants truffle oil?
No, I don't think so. Man. It was really cool in 1994. It was great.
Oh, come on, man. Y'all don't like truffle Parmesan fries? I'm out at the loop.
Once a year, maybe.
Yeah,
Once a year, okay. All right.
It smells like your socks after a 14-hour shift. At the end of the day, and it just, I don't know. I mean, I like truffles. I don't like truffle oil. And there's a time and a place for truffles. If I'm in Italy or France, I'll definitely shave some truffles on it. But
when you are doing a new dish, how often or how many times do you cook it before you actually put it on the menu? How many times do you change it? Do you have a test kitchen? Can we volunteer to come test some new dishes?
So that's kind of what the Chef's Table is born and bred for.
Okay.
That's kind of like our kitchen laboratory, and we're blessed to be able to have that sitting right in the heart of our kitchen. And just the popularity of that table over this last, I think it got installed, I think July 4th weekend, 1994, right? Or 93, something like that. It was the third chef's table in the United States. The first one was at Charlie Trotter's in Chicago. Alex Brennan flew there to kind of get that whole experience, and it was like, light bulbs start going off. Holy cow, that's like really bringing the hospitality and the dining experience literally into the heart of the kitchen. So people, you kind of tear down that door and kind of demystify some things. People are just honestly very curious about how things operate in a kitchen.
Definitely.
So Brennan's at Houston had the second one, and then Commander's Palace way back in like the early 90s, 93, 94, something like that. We installed that. It used to be a celebration frozen ice cream bomb case, right? And right next to that, there was two stools. One said Ella, one said Dottie. So the ladies would go in there and sit right next to that case. And after that, then we tore all that stuff out. The chef's table went in. But just the popularity, we try not to, but we're already taking reservations for 2021.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know.
Like every single night, and it's April, right? But every single night of the week is booked until next year. Crazy.
Amazing.
And
That's
I
crazy.
put on my pants like anybody else, But to kind of demystify that whole thing and actually practice doing new dishes, we kind of use the chef's table in the commander's kitchen as kind of like the guinea pig kind of thing,
And do you love people that sit down and say just whatever you want to do? I mean,
Yeah, I love
the
that.
picture that I used to advertise the show was actually from you at the chef's table, where you brought an entire pig out, you rolled it out to our table, and you lit it on fire.
It's
Do you
fun,
remember
right?
that?
We've done that a couple times.
Okay.
It doesn't happen very often. We do
Okay.
it for special buddies, but I actually got kicked out of high school for arson. Did I ever tell you that?
Did you? No.
Yeah, I had this like obsession with fire.
Well, thank you. We
Now
love
you're a
it.
professional.
You're in the perfect place.
That's it. By the end of the day, I was suspended for 4 days. Blah blah blah. My brother was coming home from college, and instead of Tory McPhail, my high school nickname when I was a freshman became Torchy McFlame.
Good to know.
I think I will always call you that from now on. What's up, Torchy?
When you walk in the kitchen, you should talk about
What's
it.
up, Torchy? So I've had foie gras shots there.
Yeah.
I've never even had foie gras. I never even heard of foie gras until I went to the chef's table.
What did I have at Nelfie one year? Y'all did foie gras something, and it was like, wow, y'all blew my mind. It was like 2 or 3 years ago. Man, it was foie something, and it was in the day and age where like Philip Lopez at Root was doing foie candy, cotton candy and stuff. But y'all did it. I can't remember, and it was savory, but it was sweet as well. It was 2 or 3 years ago at Nelfie, but I was amazed at like how y'all put that together.
We try to be creative, but it still has to have roots in Louisiana, like we talked about a second ago. It's just got to make sense. But you want to be inspired. You want to sit down and say, "Hey, man, here's my hard-earned money." And everybody likes a cheeseburger. When you go and say, "Hey, man, here's my $17 on a hamburger," and you want it to be damn good, So that's how we do it. I'm certainly blessed to have owners that are very smart, analytical, very forward-thinking, very they have the guests' perception in mind, right, all the time. And you want to be inspired when you go to Commanders and sit down and all that. So that's what we do. That's how we do it.
And you are. And it keeps its tradition, but still is exciting and new at the same time.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
A little something for everybody. It should be something that, grandma can relate to, right? Because she knows that her grandmother kind of cooked that similar dish way back when. But then it should be something that could be on the cover of a magazine. So that's like the balancing act we try to pull off.
What, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about you and personally your chef, Tory McPhail Foods, your brand.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So tell us about that. How did it get started?
So Donnie Rouse and the whole Rouse's family and I have always been pretty close. And so they just told me probably like 7-8 years ago, they're like, you know what, if we could ever help you do anything, certainly let us know. And you just never know what direction your life is gonna take. But certainly trying to diversify a little bit more, I think it's a healthy deal no matter what you want to try to do. So, these days we are blessed to have Commanders going strong. We've got Sobu, we've got Picnic Provisions of Whiskey, and then we also have a product line. And I think we're in probably about 80 grocery stores right now, and from like the coast of Texas all the way to Orange Beach, Alabama. And so there's 3 sauces these days, but we've had rum vinegar on the shelves as well. And it just kind of represents more of like the beach, sun, fun kind of slant, I guess, of New Orleans food. Put more of the Caribbean end of it.
Is that from, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. I was going to just say about the Virgin Islands. Is that where you picked it all up?
Yeah, exactly right. But I think that's kind of an underserved part of our community. And certainly Nina Compton's spin on, Caribbean New Orleans thing is like exactly right at my alley. We can do definitely very authentic, true to its spirit, great Cajun food, right? But when I'm not running restaurants, I want to have my feet in the sand, have some reggae music going, and that's, I guess, my happy place.
The point I was going to bring is that when you said, like, sun, fun, beachy kind of a feel to the sauces and whatnot, the ironic part is that one of the best Rouses that's out there, and one of the best ones that does the numbers for Rouses, and I'm only assuming, but I've heard some things, that the one in Orange Beach. And it's because all of these New Orleanians who go to Perdido, who go to Orange Beach, who go to Alabama, that's kind of our little Riviera right there, and our escape, and they do so well. And I'm sure your sauces do really well there too, because people are drinking all day, then let's just head to Rouse's, and then it's already made. It's Tory McPhail, it's going to be good. That kind of thing, rather than just I don't even know if there's even a Taco Bell or whatever on Orange Beach. Perdido Key, I doubt there is.
I'm gonna find it.
Exactly. Gotta go deep Alabama. But
do you pour your sauces on the Taco Bell?
No, I haven't done that yet, but that's a darn good idea.
So let me ask this question to both of you guys. Yeah. I mean, how in the chef world has it changed? So you started off, over 20 years ago, both of you. I feel like today, and chefs are almost required to be artists. Is it harder because you have to be more and more innovative? You have to come up with more and more. There's more competition. It's not just like you said, a lot of the big pot cooking. It's not. You have to be relevant, change, and almost make it like an artistry. Is that true? And is it a good thing or a bad thing? How hard is it?
I think it depends on the spectrum that you're in and the route that you want to go. Obviously, I think Tory every day has to be innovative. Just I'm assuming that, but I would say it's a good hunch.
So you got to get a study.
I mentioned Ryan Andre again. I mean, there's just stuff that every day he's just so creative with Soji, and just the things that he does and the flair that he brings to it, and I think in this day and age, it has to, for something as simple as jambalaya, I'm trying to figure out the ways of making that Instagram worthy, making etouffee Instagram worthy, Facebook worthy, all these different ways of, because, a picture tells, 1,000 stories, and at the end of the day, everybody's a Yelper. Mm-hmm. Everybody's a food critic nowadays, and everybody has the right to be. When you're spending your hard-earned money on it, then you have the right to talk good or bad about it.
Yeah.
But within that, it's social media has modernized the restaurant industry in a way that it's good and bad. It's obviously the best, but you really need to set aside $40,000 to $60,000 a year just to hire a social media person or a PR agent that can handle those type of things, because I'm sure a lot of people make a reservation after looking at the Commanders' Facebook or Instagram and say, like, we need to go there, and then that's and the dish has to look good in order for people to say we need to go there. And now you're booked till 2021. That's
people eat with their eyes, don't they?
Very much so.
And just it's got to be right. And so we constantly, every single day, I'm frustrated walking to that place. I'm like, no, it's not right. It's not good enough. Damn it. Let's go. Let's get your stuff together. It's got to be right.
I know that was Ella's role. Did you kind of take on that role after she passed? I mean,
Ella was such a unique, amazing person. I don't think 100 people getting together would ever fill her shoes. But just so impressed with like T and Lally doing what they do, and they're like kind of unflappable as well. They're just such steadfast, rock, amazing owners. And I've tried to escape New Orleans on several different occasions, but they just keep pulling me back in.
It's one thing that I think that, going back to that Daniel Blue thing, but it's one thing that Tita said, that she said, we want people to leave having an experience, and I think that a lot of New Orleans chefs and a lot of people, just chefs all around, we invented hospitality, obviously, but we haven't gone back to that. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do at Evangeline is more so like, really, if I can't dress up this jambalaya, because all I can really do is put green onions and parsley on it, that kind of a scenario. We obviously we don't want to go the microgreens route, or just things like that. We don't want to make things that are basic too fancy. But at the end of the day, what we can do is give you that dining experience, and give you that hospitality that you came to New Orleans for, and that and love New Orleans for. And I think that's a creative way that chefs nowadays need to think about it, and especially chef-driven restaurants where all their passion goes into creativity and deconstructed this and blah, 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 and all these other different things. But at the end of the day, People just want a bowl of gumbo.
Right.
You know? And if you make them feel so special, and if the wait staff makes them feel special, and if everything is right from the lighting to the music to clean shaven to nice fingernail, you know, let's get back to New Orleans hospitality. And I think that that's what we need to do, because like I said before, we're being trumped by other cities, and rightfully so, but keep us honest. And that to me is keeping us honest and getting us back to that, the core traditions of what people want, you know, an English muffin, a poached egg, Canadian bacon, and hollandaise.
And there are people who just want a simple, good
very simple
dish.
Do it right.
But do it right, and have it presented.
Hollandaise isn't lumpy.
Do it right and do it consistent. If I had Eggs Benedict at your restaurant, it was delicious before, I want to go back and have the exact same dish.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's food bloggers too. So we had one on the show, and you were saying hire someone to do all of your social media. Really, all you need to do is invite one of these or two of these food bloggers in and have them do it. Give them a free meal, right? Which is going to cost you a hell of a lot less than $40,000 a year. Right. They have over 100,000 followers, some of these people. Well, you have over 100,000 followers.
On Twitter, I have like 95,000.
Yeah.
40 on Instagram. But
I think I have like 50.
I started off advocating people, I was in the music industry for a while and went to Loyola for public relations. I started being that chef, manager, advocate, and really working as a chef as well, but working the kind of the PR thing, and just learned social media and whatnot. And you'll never see me push a dish that I made. I'm always pushing a dish that I ate somewhere else, or it's just I'd rather advocate other people. And to me, if you know, it takes a village, and then at the end of the day, I try to practice humility, and I really, at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about come to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Come spend money.
You know,
and if I advocate everybody else, I'll be taken care of at the end of the day. So
a rising tide floats all boats, kind
Amen.
of a philosophy.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Amen.
That is pretty cool, definitely. And I know if I see a good dish, or if it's a date night, I look on some of the bloggers' Instagram pages, and you know, my husband's like, "Where are we going tonight?" Instead of Commander's, where we just go all the time. So I'll pick a new restaurant from a blogger's page. So yeah, that's a good idea.
And we need the bloggers. We need, you know, a lot of people. And I don't even consider myself a blogger or whatever, or an influencer by any means. But we need those people, and a lot of people don't like those people, and I can understand why. But most of the time they're telling the truth, and maybe you need to check yourself and look in the mirror, you know, and rather than say, "Oh, these people are full of crap," or blah blah blah. But it brings me to a question that I wanted to ask you, and it's more so like, not even where do you see New Orleans in the future, but like, what do we need to do in order for real talented chefs to not fail? You know, you see some of these people, and I won't mention their names. Maybe we've mentioned their restaurants, and not that I'm knocking them by any means, but you know, and actually you're included in this quite thing because you own multiple restaurants, and I've owned multiple restaurants as well. But owning multiple restaurants and being so uber successful, and having great food and being very talented, but then there's the guy who you honestly know you've been going to eat at this hole in the wall forever, and all the chefs get together and go eat at this hole in the wall, and then when he decides to make it, you know what, I found an investor, I've bought a place, and I've done this and I've done that, and 6 months later, I mean, he's selling his house, and you know, he's trying to find a job on the line somewhere, you know, and that really hurts me to see these people who are so uber talented, who were so supported by the actual culinary industry, you know, then try to make that push to be somebody in this industry, in this town, and fall flat on their face. And what can we do? I mean, and I know you probably don't know the answer, but it's just kind of, to me, it's a pressing issue to watch people dedicate their life to something and fail. You know,
it's a very philosophical question or problem. You know, just because you're a great cook doesn't mean you're going to be a great chef. Just because you're a great chef doesn't mean you're going to be a great restaurateur. So I think everybody just needs to breathe, right? We all need to look in the mirror and say, man, what do we really want this town to be? What's our legacy going to be down the road? And I feel like at this point in my life, I'm 45 now, I think it does better for my soul if I can sit down and mentor somebody and have an honest conversation about where they're at in their life, take inventory of what they've accomplished, and really kind of get a good grip on what their future needs to be. What are your goals? Where is your life and where's your career going? And to help somebody solve their problems ahead of time by maybe giving different perspective brings me more joy at the end of the day than, say, a paycheck. And my best examples of that are T and Lally. They've been around the business their entire life. That's the only thing they've done. That's the only thing they want to do. And like even now, if you go to Picnic up on Corner State Magazine, there's a little chalkboard thing that says, be a mentor, your iced tea is free, right? And at Sobu as well, we've got barpreneurs. Okay, we do that every Friday afternoon at noon with my friend Jay. He's a successful entrepreneur on his own. But just people that want to be mentored, people that want to inspire others. You can just go to these two little restaurants and sit down and just be part of that conversation, be part of that solution, and really give like the young ones kind of a leg up and say, look, don't make that mistake. Let me tell you what I did. This is what I think you should do. And I think we all just need to do more of that, regardless if you're in the restaurant business or the booze business or wine, whatever. If you happen to be a carpenter, help the guy next to you, help the guy down the street. And if we do that, again, we talked about it a second ago, kind of a rising tide floats all boats. But maybe that's going to be New Orleans' legacy in the future, not just great recipes.
I think that's awesome because I think that, when you look at, for instance, you mentioned carpenter and you look at 40, 50 years ago when, a tradesman was and it still is. I know we call a lot of plumbers in this industry.
Yeah, right.
And I'm sure there's a lot of plumbers in this town who make a lot of money. But, but it's not a glorified trade like a chef was a back in the day, a chef. It's funny because my father used to tell me, like, why do you want to be a chef? Why do you want to be a servant? Why do you want to cook for somebody? But, it was a trade back in the day. And then, Food Network and a lot of people helped it become glorified. But, it's when you mention carpenter, it's just where it's crazy how we've evolved this industry so fast. And now we're dealing with the problems, the backlash. But at the same time, we have to look at ourselves and see like how we regrouped from Katrina. It's
that's a good example.
It's just so it's crazy. I mean, it's just crazy. This industry is so crazy, and I'm not gonna sit here and talk to you for hours like what we should do and why and whatever. So next question.
No, I love all of this. I mean, you mentioned Katrina, and I was gonna actually talk to you about the situation at Commanders during Katrina. And
that sucked. That whole thing just
sucked. God! So what did everybody do while you were closed for a year? Where did you go? What did you do? You stayed here?
We ended up closing. It was Saturday brunch. Closed after brunch. We boarded up all the windows and doors.
Right.
Tried to take all the outside furniture in. Just do what we do on any other hurricanes. Nothing new, right? We live in Louisiana. This is all part of the gig. But I brought a small bag like this. But I loaded it up with like 3 T-shirts, some fresh boxers, a bunch of shorts. And I was going to the beach to party for a couple of days, man. I was going to go to Destin, hang out, get a suntan going, and come back, and then it's like reopen the Big Blue Monster on Washington Avenue. And we all know that didn't quite happen that way.
No.
But the whole chapter was just ridiculous. So we were closed for 13 months. Right after Katrina, and that neighborhood, everybody called it the sliver by the river. Right, because it was that one section that never got water, and it was the section that got electricity first, right? And so everybody else would rip out their sheetrock, right? They would ditch, all their clothes, their laundry, they do all the deal. But everybody came to Magazine Street. Everybody kind of came to the French Quarter, and they started to party, and everybody told their Katrina story. And so this section now, there's so many restaurants up and down Magazine Street because that was kind of the catalyst for bringing the city back. Was in that sliver by the river, as they would say. But what was that?
Did you have to rebuild your whole staff after that? Like, had everybody just scattered? And I mean, they can't be out of work for a year.
So we typically carry, this is a crazy number, there's about 70 of us in the kitchen, right? When I'm fully staffed, I'll have 55 cooks.
That is crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Every night or just like on a weekend?
Just on the roster.
Okay.
And so after Katrina, 4 cooks returned.
Oh my gosh.
4, right? And so like most of the sous chefs, they left and went to other cities, or you're a sous chef at Commander's Palace, and all of a sudden you can transfer to a small little neighborhood joint, and all of a sudden you're the executive chef. You're making executive chef money, and I was so proud of the ladies and the gentlemen that had an opportunity to have terrible natural disaster, but then all of a sudden it's the silver lining. They're like boom, boom, boom. Now we're running restaurants, and now they're the owners, and it's great for them. Tough for us, but it was it became very obvious very, very quickly that we needed to do something unprecedented. And so we hired a brand new staff. We got people from all across the United States. And so we held what's called the Aqua Blue U. And so we locked the doors for 4 days, okay, with every single back of the house person, and then invited the front of the house in. But it's like the history of Louisiana was like just day one. All we did was talk about philosophy. How do you make gumbo? Why do you make gumbo? What's the history? What's going on with it?
So it was just a huge training session.
It was a 4-day university class on how do you saute? What is the vinaigrette? What is going on with this? What's Louisiana food? Why do we have eggs in our
That's the
turtle
class
soup?
people need to take instead of going to the Culinary Institute, right?
Yeah. So I sat on a table with a baseball hat on backwards and like a concert T-shirt, and we just talked philosophy. Why are we here? What are we doing? What's the goal? Where are we at? For 4 days, and then we said, all right, now let's cook. Right. Then we started getting all of our small words. Then we could actually break out a tomato. But until you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it and the history of that tomato, why we're working with it, then you got no business having a knife in your hand. And so that's how we reopened a great legendary restaurant. And it should be smart and analytical. Surround yourself by people who really, give a crap one way or the other.
Keep you growing.
Yeah,
keep you learning. And that's basically the second time in your career you had to do that, right?
We've closed many times.
Well, no, I mean just rebuild a staff. Like it probably after Jamie passed and you became
that was a mess too. Jeez.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we got beers in front of us.
Yeah. Okay, speaking of, I want to open another one. I think we have 2 left. All right, let's do the rosé. I think that's kind of like a brunchy one.
I still have to go cook for this game.
All right. We're gonna wrap it up after this.
I'm not meaning that. No,
we can talk to you for hours.
I'm just saying drinking part.
This happens every time I get somebody in the studio. They're like, okay, I have 30 minutes, and like an hour and a half later, they're still talking. I'm like, did you have to go? No, I'm good.
I'm actually good as well.
We're good.
I have to be there for 6.
Cheers to the Carpe Rosé.
Very much so. Thank you, Urban South.
Cheers.
This is a cider ale,
Thank you,
light
Adam.
crisp ale finished on cranberry puree and a touch of peach juice. So actually, the owner, Jacob Landry, is coming on the show
Awesome.
next week. Yeah.
That is really good.
I've had
It
some
is
cool
actually
people in
really
It's
here.
really good, huh?
Another one that can make a cocktail.
Absolutely.
I'm actually really impressed with these beers. I'm not a very avid beer drinker.
This is delicious.
Delicious.
This is really good.
Easy drinking. Hang
She
out.
told me when she brought the beer that they went to a cooking show or something at the Audubon Zoo, and one of the chefs there made a ice cream float with this.
Oh, sounds great.
Yeah,
Not for the kids. What's at the zoo, but not for the kids.
What's the alcohol in this one, I wonder?
I don't know. I can't read that.
That could be dangerous on Sunday afternoon at my house.
I think the alcohol in these are, because I've only taken maybe 3 or 4 sips of each one, and I feel okay. So I think they're probably a little stronger than normal.
Mm-hmm.
And being that they don't say what it is, probably.
See, I don't know. I'm just not finding it.
They don't want you to know.
Yeah.
But you enjoy yourself. Thank you, Urban South. We're enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, it is very good beer.
And pretty diversified too.
Very
This
much
one's
so.
Smooth and easy
Very
going,
much so.
nice,
Yeah, so we have the
And
anniversary
spicy
beer
one.
left. They just celebrated their 3rd anniversary last week, so they wanted to sponsor the show. They want to come on and tell their story. We can't wait to have them. You can come back and co-host that one with me too if you
I'd
want.
love to. I really would love to.
I love having people in here with me.
Absolutely.
I'm meeting the best people ever.
This is charming. This is a great studio.
Thank you.
This is really cool.
Hey, you think T and Lally would come on?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Would you
100%.
co-host with me?
Of course.
Or do you know him too well?
Well, I definitely know him well, but I know all the right questions to ask.
Yeah, there we go. What can we get in here to get them to open up? What do we need to? What alcohol do we need to bring?
Oh, you got to think about champagne and
All right,
good cocktails.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's have
Let's
Sobu
work
sponsor that one.
think
Let's
so.
get a mixologist in here. Hey, I've had a bartender in here before.
Our new bar chef Amanda, she is rock star. She's cool. She's fun. She's down to earth. She's funny.
All right, Amanda.
She's shaking it up behind the bar at Sobu these days.
And I'm about to come by.
Awesome. Yeah, please.
Yo, y'all are right around the corner from us too. So
Man, I need to swing over and see you.
please do. Well, let me get some things straight first, please. But
Call me
I
and
would
let me know.
appreciate it. We'll do so.
All right.
We'll do. But yeah, we're right around. I wouldn't say we're in the same realm because y'all are just so innovative and then just so we have to stay classic. So
I love that too.
But
though.
classic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very much. No.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking it by any means. It's just
Yeah.
when it comes to the creativeness, y'all are just
So we did have an idea when I had the food blogger in here.
Yep.
What's her name? Nicole Caridad Ralston, and she goes by Off the Eaten Path NOLA. Have either of you? Do you follow her?
I follow her.
Okay, so she was in here, and she was just thinking, when she first moved here or whatever, Commanders was intimidating, and we definitely got rid of that stigma quick. I'm like 25-cent martinis. I mean, I've gotten pretty shit-faced in Commanders a couple of times. It's acceptable. I mean, it's fine. They don't kick you out.
Dress nice.
Yeah.
Whatever happens at the chef's table.
I mean,
stays.
you walk in with a blazer, you might not walk out wearing one, so it's all fine.
Wearing someone else's blazer.
Yeah, walked out blazed.
So
Exactly.
you had asked if we can move this, like if we can do this, like local at your restaurant or whatever, and we had an idea to start doing like brunch with babes and showing up at the restaurants, doing a live podcast, eating the food, having the people bring out their new dishes and stuff. So I think that would be fun.
I think it would be amazing.
That's a great
We'll
idea.
come to Evangeline and do it. We'll come to Commanders and do
Of
it.
course, anytime.
Only at the chef's table though.
Whatever you want. Whatever you want. That's great. It's like a moving cast of characters. So it's like right in front of you. It's like
Pretty
a
much.
buffet of personalities.
What is like the
cruising
most
right through
famous
the-
person you've served at the chef's table?
I don't think I can tell you.
You really can't?
I don't think so.
Why not? Okay, so
I
I
There's
saw
so many famous people.
I saw Hoda in there, of
Man,
course.
Hoda is amazing. She's such a sweet, sweet lady. I'm honored to be a little bit of a buddy of hers. She's great.
Yeah, and she makes New Orleans proud.
So, yeah,
Represents
she's
our
classy,
city so
just
well.
Awesome. for
She
sure.
really is.
And she got her roots here. That's the
Absolutely.
cool thing to see her. I remember. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the coolest people I ever saw in the Commander's Kitchen was the Smother Brothers. If y'all remember those,
Yeah.
Yo
Man
when
and all of the-
growing up as kids.
I
All
don't
the
remember
yo-yo
them.
games.
Oh God.
I have no idea who that
The
is.
Smothers and we're brothers and we have our own show.
No.
Remember the Smothers Brothers?
I do
oh
not.
my gosh,
Yeah,
babes.
walking the dog. They would always do like yo-yo tricks.
Seriously,
Oh
like
my
cooler than
God.
So
Hoda?
he had one on him. Right? I mean,
Really?
He had one on him.
Really?
Stands there. And my buddy Tom Roby is now at the at Two Jacks down in the French Quarter. Lovely guy. Recognized him like that. And so the guy stopped and was like, "Hey, how are you? It's good to see you. Hey, do some tricks for us and all that." And the guy's like looking around, whips out a yo-yo and does all this stuff right in the middle of the Commander's
my
kitchen. Like click,
God.
click, click, click on the floor, pop, 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 like this. We're all like, life stopped. It was probably
God, that would
terrible
have
for
made
the
my
dining
day.
room.
That would have made my day. I just remember being a kid watching that, and really it was a slapstick comedy like
Yeah.
Benny Hill type
Yeah.
show. But what I wanted to see was Yo Man come out
Yeah.
and do the yo-yo tricks, and that was.
All right, well,
fun, and I
hopefully
would
he's
love
listening
that.
to
Check
the
it
show, and he's going to be like, "Oh my God, that was the best guest ever." What is the craziest thing that happened besides the Pam? Like, what is one of the craziest things that happened in the kitchen?
You want to answer that first?
You turn red.
The Pam incident, probably. I mean, there's been a lot of stuff that I probably can't talk about, or people wouldn't want to be embarrassed. But things happen every day. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just kind of a. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember yesterday. It's
Right.
it flows and all. I remember my kids' birthdays, and that's all I really need to remember to be a good person other than a chef. Other than that, I just need to make sure, remember. I don't even know who's on the schedule today. I know I'm not. So that's all that's important to me. But it's always exciting. It's always something new. It's always something fun. Usually the coolest part to me, the most triumphant part, and where it sparks camaraderie, is just when something goes wrong and we all figure it out. And the way that my team, my chef de cuisine and my sous chefs that have been with me for a long time and kind of follow me everywhere I go, we look at it every day we say it this way, and I hope it's not offensive to anybody that was in Vietnam or what have you, but every day we're preparing for Vietnam. Every day we're going to get attacked. Every day we're going to have to figure out how to figure this out. And if we're not prepared, if we're not prepped up, if we're not reserves here and this low boy and this, that, all the things that we do to make sure that we're going to be able to handle it if the walking goes down, if the fryer goes down, if the power goes out, if the gas, especially in the quarter, one day, you might be cooking with full gas, and next thing you know, the gas just goes down to this, and now we're sauteing basically on a sterno. It's a gas range, but it's just this little bitty piece of fire, and that's just with the plumbing and everything of Louisiana or New Orleans, should I say?
Water pressure.
But water pressure as well.
Yeah, boil water advisories, right?
It drives me bananas. I'm like, guys, can we not get this together, please? Really?
I think they said it would cost $10 billion to fix all the infrastructure of the plumbing under New Orleans.
Some of those
which
pipes
means that we would
are original.
Traffic
300
would be
plus years
horrible.
old.
I mean, it would just look at what happened with Bourbon Street. I mean, just when they tried to, and they're still doing it, but I mean, I think that honestly that had an adverse effect on tourism in a way. You know, for 2 years of just Bourbon Street being ripped up, and this Mardi Gras, when you hear from a lot of people that it wasn't economically as sound as the last couple of Mardi Gras, it's just that nobody wanted to walk around with the smell of sewer. And it already smells like sewer, no knock to it, but it's kind of an ambiance of Bourbon Street. But when it smells like sewer and then smells like sewer, it you know nobody really wanted to go. You know, and but adversely, it made Frenchman Street kind of a destination now. So and magazine even more. So we're evolving.
And I do love Frenchman.
I'd
say Frenchman any day.
Good local live music, spot to spot, man. That was super cool. Very hip part of the city. Love it. I don't go often enough, but I need to, for sure.
So I think you tried to slide one by us, but I caught it when you said you tried to leave New Orleans a couple of times, but they pulled you back in. So what's up with that?
I mean, Commanders is an amazing place, and it's always been a very near and dear spot in my heart. But things were different back then. You know, I didn't feel like
back then, meaning
like early '90s. You know, and you know we call it the Big Blue Monster because it can definitely chew you up and spit you out. About the end of my second year, I was
as exec or just second year there.
No, just second year there. It's like mid '90s, and I was just burnt out. You know what I mean? Trying to work saute and picking up that much food and that many covers, and it's intense. You know, and so I moved away. I said, you know what? I just want to go to the beach. So I moved to Destin for 6 months. And what was the question anyway?
Why did you
try to leave New Orleans? I just got to the point where I felt like I wasn't learning as much as I needed to. You know, I didn't have enough people around me to say, all right, let's push you into this uncomfortable zone. Let's, you know, here's your career path. You got to do this and this and this. So I just got to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm going to leave. I'm going to stretch my legs or spread my wings, what have you. And so I left. But every chapter, when I keep coming back to Commanders, every chapter has been an important part of my life. And had I not left and gotten different perspective, kind of like the whole, you know, is the grass greener kind of a thing, then I would not have returned and been quite as driven or quite as successful. So it's every trip back tells a little bit of a different story. It's all healthy.
So it was prior that you were trying to leave, not anything recent.
No, okay. I've had a wonderful experience, but I always kind of wonder what's next. And the Brennans and I are passionate about what we do, but they've never partnered with a chef before.
Right.
And so, you know, one of the reasons that Emerald left, as they've told me, is like he wanted to write a cookbook. But Dick Brennan was like, no, man, if you're gonna write a cookbook, it's gonna be a Commander's cookbook. He's like, well, I've got more to do, more to give. It shouldn't just be traditional New Orleans food. I want to do some cool, funky stuff and bam and jazz it up and do all that stuff. This was part of the catalyst for him wanting to stretch his legs and do a little something else.
And he was chef de cuisine. He wasn't exec, correct?
Emerald was Paul left, and then Paul was trying to do K-Paul's on Charter Street, and told Ella, look, I'm not going to leave you in a lurch. I'm going to kind of go back and forth to do the deal. So it was one of Emerald's first big mentors is a 24-year-old kid from the Northeast coming out here, and he took over as the executive chef at 24.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they would just sit down and kind of talk food, him and Ella, and just talk about philosophy, why we're doing the things that we do, just those sort of conversations. So
I think he said it was the longest interview process of his life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Back
and forth, you know, on the telephone for hours and hours. You know, but these days it's like, all right, Tory, what else you want to do? I mean, it's fine, you can be executive chef at Commander's Palace for as long as you can, but I was just like, what's next? I don't want to have to leave, but we got to kind of talk about that, right? And so
you have to grow.
You got to keep going. And so these days I am excited and very blessed to be able to have Chris Lynch and Meg Ordon and Jason Wells, and even down at Sobu, Darren Pareto was our chef de cuisine there, and then Kevin Cowley up at Picnic Provisions and Whiskey. Amazing chef de cuisines, amazing folks, which allow me to kind of float back and forth to all three and do what I do. But yeah, these days I don't have to be pushed out or have to leave to accomplish the things that I want to accomplish too.
So it's a good fit. I mean, I think they've, you know, come to a place where you're happy, they're happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it's probably best that Emerald left. At the end of the day, look at what he's become, and look at what you've become because he left. You know, so it's the change is,
It's crazy to
It's
me.
good.
I didn't know that really only 4 chefs since the inception of Commanders. Well, since the Brennans. I mean, you had
Yeah.
Paul Perdue,
Yeah.
Emerald, Jamie, and now you.
Yeah, it's like 4 chefs in almost 50 years.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy?
that is
You know
crazy.
what I mean? Like everybody
But that's actually
almost
great.
has a decade of experience. I've seen that restaurant change so much in all my time there as well. So, but it used to be when I first got there, that they would have like party veg. It was the same vegetables on all the plates. Right, you'd have mashed potatoes on this and this, but just the protein and maybe the sauce was a little different on each one. But it, it's kind of evolved to kind of what it is today. And New Orleans has evolved. The whole food in the city is just a little different.
Yeah, it
So
definitely is.
it's cool to be an insider to kind of see that whole transformation. And
See, that's one thing that it's funny that I've never heard the term party veg, to be honest with you, but it's one thing that I'm trying to push at Evangeline, and more so because of just the constrictions of the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Every protein has the same veg, chef's veg, and we're gonna do it great. We're not gonna just slap shit on the plate.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, let's just. I walk in is probably the men's restroom is bigger than the walk-in. That'll tell you how it is. So with rotating produce and all these different things, we just need to have strict. This is what we have type thing.
That's right.
And when I look at the challenge that I have, and I look at when we talk about bringing New Orleans back and bringing in things like that, it's like I have no problem with doing party veg, and we're going to do it right. And it might be different than it was 20 years ago,
Right.
but let's bring it back to the basics, and obviously not for Commanders and things like that, where you have to stay innovative, you have to, but I really think that chefs, and I don't probably repeat myself, but we have to check ourselves and we have to bring it back to the basics of what created this town and what created the experience of the dining experience, and it's humbling to have to cook in one pot. It's humbling to have to do these things that my partners insist on me doing, and that's the way it was. So it's not like I'm actually joining tradition rather than breaking it.
Yeah.
It's cool that you're sticking to your guns and telling that true Cajun story, right? So when my folks come down from Washington State, Spokane, right, or Ferndale, Washington, where I grew up, that's what they want. That's what they think about Louisiana food, and that's what they come here for. They don't come here for truffle oil and foie gras on top of like black and red fish. That should not be that way for a reason. So I think it's admirable that you're telling that story and living that life every single day. I think it's fascinating.
I agree.
People need to hear that story. They really do. And without guys like you, that stuff's going to be lost.
Amen.
Right? So just keep sticking to the guns.
Appreciate that, Chef.
I can't wait
Yeah.
to come and hang out and
Thank you.
pop some of these amazing beers.
Hey, yeah, definitely.
And we forget too, as New Orleanians, I mean, these are dishes that you might think, and we might think, oh, gumbo or whatever, but people can't get that everywhere like they get it here. So it is an important part of our culture, an important part of our city, and people come here to eat a pot of jambalaya, a pot of gumbo. Like you said, they're not going to want.
Doing a lot of reflection in the last 3 weeks of me, accepting this position and partnership and saying that I had to, go back to basics and whatnot. It made me really look at a lot of the things, and I know we've all probably seen it on Facebook, to where people start blasting, like, this isn't gumbo, and then there's just 1,000 comments of people just belittling these people. But at the end of the day, gumbo was whatever you had in your refrigerator, and it was poor people, and you had to basically say, we're gonna take these vegetables and use flour, which is basically flavorless, to thicken something, and all these different things. And so then when I had to check myself to say I really feel sorry for these people who they put tomatoes in their gumbo or they put whatever in their gumbo, but at the end of the day, what? That's gumbo. It's whatever was in their refrigerator, whatever they could afford to eat, whatever was about to spoil. We're just gonna make a soup out of it. And let's go off the subject, but I feel bad for those people when I have to look at what gumbo really is, and then all these people, and you look at a lot of well-known chefs that are willing to make a comment on there to belittle some housewife who probably was just trying to feed her kids, and wanted to post a picture, So I think that within that too, that to have, I think all chefs, if you're listening, if you're going to listen to this, please check yourself. You really need to know why the city is here and know why we do what we do, and it's not about being flashy. It's about protecting tradition.
Stay humble like these two. And I think the first rule of thumb in any profession, who cares what the haters think? I mean, you're not going to please everybody. You're always going to have some critic. You're always going to have somebody. And like I tell, my kids, you're never going to be criticized by somebody doing more than you. Only somebody doing less.
That's true.
So don't worry about it.
Very, very true.
That's great. It's well said.
You're going to wake up every day. You're going to do your best. You're going to cook your gumbo. It's going to be delicious. And if they don't like it, don't eat it.
That's exactly right. At the end of the day, you got a lot of choices around the city.
That's right.
You can do anything you want to do, man.
Tell them where they can stick that gumbo.
On Facebook with tomatoes.
So what is next for Tory? What is next for you? Do you have anything in the works? Do you have anything in planned? Can you tell us?
I'm looking forward to 2019 because I'm done building a house. I'm done rebranding the sauce line. Now we got the new website. We got all the delivery stuff, so we can actually ship it right to your door. You don't have to necessarily go to Rouse's, which are amazing grocery stores, but now you can just log on to the website and we can ship it all over the United States, right to you. The picnic is up and rolling strong on the magazine and State Street. I think it's kind of a really cool idea. I don't see a lot of folks doing either. So Dale Reginelli, good buddy, T. Martin as well. And so I was hanging out with him in the corporate office one day. And they're like, "Hey man, what are you doing for your off day?" And I'm like, "You know what? I'm probably gonna put the paddle boards on top of the Jeep. I'm gonna grab the girl, grab the puppy, and I'm gonna stop at 3 or 4 different places so I can get everything I need for a picnic, right? And then go to Bayou St. John, right? But you gotta stop somewhere for champagne, and you gotta stop somewhere else for cheese, and you gotta stop somewhere else for whatever you want, a pre-made sandwich, and that was it. So it takes like an hour before you actually get into the water. Light bulbs start coming off. And I think we kind of talked about New Orleans and hospitality and how different the city is. And the idea for us is we want to bring hospitality to the next level, okay? And you got Uber Eats and all that, delivery stuff. You got Postmates, you got all that. But we just want to take hospitality to the next level and set your table in the great outdoors. You pick the place. You can say, "Hey man, by the big tree in Ottoman Park." Great, we're going to come find you, right? We're going to go out there with your picnic basket, with your blanket, and your 2 Sazeracs and a bottle of champagne. And we're going to lay out your picnic blanket for you. We're going to set up your own picnic so you can sit back and relax and entertain your guests. But that's what I'm going to focus on. We got to get that piece of it right. But it's been fun so far. But that's my focus.
And it's perfect. I mean, you're a block from Audubon.
Exactly.
You're right there.
They needed you there. I mean, I remember as a child where Reginelli's is now was the Hofbrau House.
Yeah.
And that was like, that's where if we're not going to the quarter, go to Port of Call, what have you, we're going to go to Hofbrau House for a burger. Yeah. Those kind of things. And kind of just growing up in that area, it was just, when I noticed that you were on State Magazine and all of that new innovative stuff and even old stuff on Magazine, the other side of Magazine, they needed you, man, and thank you. It really needed you because it's always been an affluent area, but it was just getting stale, in that area, and it was just, Whole Foods was kind of taking over, and that area needed you, so thank you.
We it's been a cool project so far, but we kind of talked about every dish kind of telling a story. Everything on that menu should just kind of bring you back to like a safer, more wholesome time in our lives. And everybody loves fried chicken, right?
Love it, and it's delicious.
We use all natural, organic, no, never, ever, the best chicken in the world. Everything just is a wholesome type of feel to it. Fresh organic greens or what have you.
And again, just delicious
simple
cocktails.
Stuff. Yeah, simple stuff just done really well with good passion and a good heart. Amazing cocktails. We've got Tory behind the bar. She's really good about what she does. But all the bartenders are pretty passionate about that. And we have tequila.
Hey. What's a picnic without that?
I think, are you hinting? I mean, I do have Patron over here.
We got a whole bar set up over there. Holy cow.
Did you expect anything less?
Well, I didn't know what to expect, but I'm pleasantly surprised with how the day is going. We got 4 beers in front of us. We got 1 more on ice, and we got a whole bar set up there. You guys are doing it right.
I don't have carpool today for all of you judgy moms listening.
We're just sipping.
That's right.
Exactly.
We are just sipping, and we have 1 left. So I think that is a great way maybe to end the show. Tori, do you want to talk about anything that we haven't brought up? I know we haven't even talked about your childhood. Like, we could have you here for hours.
So I think we just need to come back for another show.
All right, let's do it.
Talk about more.
Let's definitely do it. So let's see. So we have, this is the 3D8, the 3rd anniversary brew. It's a hazy, juicy IPA with Pilsner malt and a lot of oats. Dry hopped 3 times. Nelson, Sabro, and Cryo Mosaic. Berry and melon layered with papaya, coconut, and tangerine. I can't wait to taste this one.
It smells hoppy.
all excellent beers. All
Yeah.
excellent beers.
This one's the
Very
strongest.
impressive.
And all very unique. All
Yeah.
of it. Very.
Okay, my favorite was, I think, the rosé and the sweet heat.
I think the Sweet Heat's probably my favorite, but
Yeah.
the Snowball's so unique in that
Yeah.
just whoever's thinking of this is really, really smart.
That would be
Whoever
Jacob
you are,
Landry.
Jacob Landry, you are a very, very smart man. Very, very smart man.
That's great.
So cheers. All right, we're an hour and a half in. Tori, I thank you so much for being here. I know I had to
pleasure.
stalk you a little bit to get you here, and I'll stalk you to get you back.
I'm glad you did that because we get to hang out as three friends today. Have a
Definitely.
good conversation and talk about life in New Orleans.
Yeah, and you are one of the greatest chefs ever to be in New Orleans. You're humble.
Just a regular dude with cool jobs. That's it, man.
That drinks tequila.
Who doesn't like good tequila? Well, I do for sure.
And I want to thank you too, Sean, for being
Thank you
here.
so much. I
You
appreciate
added
the
so much
opportunity.
heart to this show today. Honestly.
That's all I can do. That's all I
Yeah,
can do.
and you did. So I thank you
Thank
both
you.
for being here. Hopefully we can all do it again
Yeah,
someday.
I'd love to.
I'm going to stalk you about getting tea and Lally.
Got you.
All right.
That'd be
And
an amazing show.
I'm going to call you to co-host again soon.
Please, I would love to. Would
All right.
absolutely love to.
Cheers, NOLA
Cheers,
Famous.
all right.
Cheers to Urban South, and cheers to Tory McPhail and Foodie Patutie.
Hey,
Over and out.
awesome.
All right,
fantastic.
guys.
That was actually cool as hell.
Very,
Love
very
that. It's great to spend time with your show.
I know. I love when I can just pleasantly surprise everybody in here.